Hi everybody, let's talk about vibe coding. Like many of you, I vibe code where I have to rely on AI assistant to do a lot of the coding for me, where historically I would have done this all manually. And this is actually pretty cool, and it's a great time saver because like with many things that I like to create, one of the things I like to code are web animations, and you can see an example of it right here where you have a grid and things are scrolling and everything's moving around. Historically, doing something like this would have taken me multiple hours of copying and pasting code from something I may have created a while ago, researching some techniques on the internet, and putting it all together. But because of AI assistance, I'm able to kind of shorten that time from multiple hours to maybe about 10 or 15 minutes, where I get most of the functionality working pretty quickly, and then I specify some details that be updated. Like this animation isn't perfect yet. You can see that the scrolling isn't exactly infinite. The grid actually ends at a certain point. So there's some work for the AI assistant to do with my guidance. But the part that has actually been very interesting though is that all the AI assistants, across the board, from when it's like Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, they all do a great job taking my prompts and turning them into working code. The bad news, and that's where this video comes in, is with the quality of the generated code itself. Because when I look at the code, look at the quality, I'm like, this could be done much better. For example, let's look at the code specifically in a dedicated code editor. I'm in Firebase Studio right now. And if I look at the code, for example, for this animation, you can see, for example, there are some things here. Like, I'm going to highlight this line right here where have an event listener, and at mouse move, it sets some properties, and then it calls a function that's going to literally draw the crosshair. And that draw crosshair function looks a little bit like this, where it's doing the line drawing and all the various capabilities. Now, you might be wondering, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this particular approach? Well, I'm not going to, to go too much detail here. I have a separate video where I talk about how to build this effect properly, but this is something that would not be considered best practice, especially when we're calling some code for drawing inside a very chatty event like mouse move. And examples like this abound. In all the examples I've seen of this particular example I created on all the assistants, each of them do something that is good to get the initial version of it up and running, but they miss a lot of critical details that only someone with a discerning eye and understanding of what needs to be done, that only that person can actually be very effective. Like getting back to the example, the funny thing though is that all these AI assistants, they know that they can do a better job, because if I prompt them, for example, one of the things I did in Claude as part of this animation is I kind of explained that the way the animation is done right now, where background position is where you're changing, that's not very performance friendly. It causes a redraw every single time. There's no hardware acceleration. So I asked it to replace the movementation with a version that uses CSS transforms to mimic the movement instead. And guess what? It agreed with me. Not only did the assistant agree with me, it also made the change in the correct way. It just required proper prompting. And so the main thing I realized in vibe coding effectively is that the more you and I know about the underlying details of what code the AI is generating, the better we'll be at vibe coding, something that is of high quality, something we can be proud to show off and say, yep, this is something that I put my name behind. It's going to work really well across all these use cases. And we've seen many studies that have come across in the last few months, and it'll probably only keep increasing, where the benefits we gain in being able to save time in writing the code initially, it needs to be balanced by also time we spend in reviewing the code and making sure that it is of high quality. And if we cannot review or can't understand what's going on, it's an opportunity for us to take a step back and learn more about details of how this all works. But unless we do that though, what we're going to find is there'll be a lot of issues and gaps that are released that do not actually help you build a better quality implementation. And so if you're going to be vibe coding, definitely keep vibe coding, but do take a moment to understand what the code is actually doing, just so you can be more prepared to make sure the quality is where it needs to be. And in a follow-up video, I'll actually show how to build this exact effect more properly, and then we'll also look at what some prompting techniques we can use to make sure animations in general are built in a way that AI assistants can, hopefully in one shot, be able to do all the right things without you having to do anything extra. And with that, I'll see you all next time.